Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm here today with a very good friend of mine, Grant Difford. And Grant is the owner and director of Waking Giants, which is an agency that helps businesses with, from what I read, strategy, leadership, all those things. Thank you for coming on board, Grant. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Nice to come to the big smoke.
So we were just talking before the episode that you've actually moved out into rural life. And how's that going?
It's good. It's nice. We, a little quiet spot to do our thing quietly. We're not ones for the limelight. So it's good for my family. It's a family decision. My daughter goes to an agricultural school. We're kind of going back to basics a bit. It's kind of the old Kiwi life, but so it's great. It's a way of getting away from the chaos that is business, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. That sounds really good. Yeah. I'm actually a country girl myself, so I can really relate. Yeah.
I think I'm a country boy, but sometimes I like to come into, a bit of clean, the cow muck can be a little bit challenging sometimes.
Fair enough, I understand. Hey, look, we are running this series to actually help entrepreneurs in terms of, how do they get a better business, but also a better life. And all of my people who are coming on board as guests, they have managed to achieve that. So it's about sharing how you got there. But before we get started, love to hear a little bit about, what is it that Waking Giants does? What is it that you do? And a professional and a personal success that you'd like to share with us as well.
So Waking Giants, to me, it started as my skills. I was a graphic designer by trade, and Waking Giants, the concept was about getting the best out of people. But I fell into the trap of creating a business doing what I knew to make money.
Right.
Typical, E-myth. But as the years went on, I found leaning more towards the leadership and the impact of what we do, and this imposter syndrome and our ability to do things way beyond what we think. So we sort of steered the business down that. So Waking Giants is the concept of everyone has it in them. I have a passion for trying to work out what that is and enabling them to do it. And we particularly focus now on leaders because I think the world needs really good business. I think good business makes the world better.
Yep.
I think some of our governments and some of the nonsense around that doesn't. So that's my passion and that's sort of my mission with the business. And we do that through, quality strategy, messaging and all those things. So we're trying to make literally better business, more, not just ethical, but leaders having and owning and building businesses that are more meaningful. So it's not necessarily saving the planet, but it's having, choosing to have 3 people in your business because they're great people rather than your goal to have a 20-person business. Yeah. All of these, what I believe are BS myths around what good business looks like. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that the hard way. I've played into some of these egotistical nonsenses over the years and most of my personal successes, bar family and my daughter and everything, is when I represent New Zealand at the World Championships in triathlon, and that was through a really tricky part of my life. So I used sport to sort of condition myself for some resilience. So I went from a basic triathlete to the World Championship team in 18 months. So and that was the catalyst for me to sort of change my mindset about what I was capable of, and that sort of started the journey. And then for the business, we're 10, I think this month or next month. I think that's a miracle.
That's awesome.
And I'm not a natural business person. I was never around businesses. None of my family had business. So I'm an outlier in my own family. Mm-hmm. So coming up to 10 years is nothing short of a miracle. So, and I love it more than the day I started.
Okay.
And it's been tough. So that's a success in my mind, really, because how many businesses fail?
Well, within the first 5 years, is that like 90% or something ridiculous, isn't it?
And I think and I do love it more than ever.
Yep.
And because I'm really clear on why I'm in business, our whole family income is from this one business. So I have a lot of responsibility as a father and as a human, and got that old male, protective of my family. Yep. So, for it to be more purposeful, for it to be more meaningful, sort of bridges the gap between it being a business and making money and what I do for my family. Mm-hmm. And that's the driver. So in business, it's really being in a place 10 years on that I actually really care about.
Yeah.
And what the next, 20 years look like, or however long I decide to keep playing this funny game we call business.
It is a bit of a game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, you were just sharing with me before that obviously 2020 was a tough year for a lot of people, but in actual fact, it had some highs and some lows for you.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing some of that with the listeners?
Yeah. So at the end of 2019, I realized that the path we were on needed an injection of pace, or it needed something to change. And we had a situation, and I made some fairly bold strategic decisions for the business. And I knew it was going to cause some problems. Yeah. I didn't realize how big. And we had a dynamic of a team where the team wasn't fully made up of the people I needed around me, let's put it that way. And that ended up in some really tricky situation with an employee, which ended up in a legal fight. And ultimately I came off worse, as often we do in these employment situations. Yeah. Now, I look back on it, and we had that going into lockdown, and that cost a lot of money. So we went into lockdown just bleeding money. But what was amazing is once we dealt with that situation, there was two lessons for me. I didn't remain resentful, which I think was really, really important, because, I find a lot of people can be resentful of people who leave their business or whatever, and they don't respect the lesson. Mm-hmm. And the other thing was, I realized how brilliant the people that were around me were. And what we actually did is we came closer, and we became more connected. You'd have to ask them, but I believe we did. Yeah. And then as we went into lockdown, our lease was up on our office, and it was like this strange rebirth through the pain, and it hurt our family financially significantly. We were in, real trouble. Yeah. But it took me a bit of time. I've got a bit of land, and I used to walk the dogs every day, did this lap. And, there were times I was sat on this bank looking into the valley. It's a privileged life we lead. And I just wanted to cry. I wanted to give up. But after a few days of doing that and dwelling on it and trying to work it out, I think one day I came back in. It sounds such a cliche, but I came back in, and I was like, right, now time to start taking action. Yeah. Spoke to the banks, spoke to my team. And we just agreed that we were going to go through this together. Mm-hmm. And I said I had most of the answers, but not all of them. I didn't know what the future looked like. We didn't lose any of our team. They all got fully paid. I just wanted to show them how much I wanted them to be part of the vision. And then we just got on with it. Yeah. And it took us 6-7 months to secure the ship financially. Yeah. But I just didn't give up. So my wife had only worked in the business part-time. She said, right, I'll jump in and help more. My daughter was wonderful. She sort of understands, Daddy, we run a business. Yep. And
how old is she now?
She's coming up 8.
Okay.
So we included her on meetings. She would ask about clients. So we made it normal at home, obviously working at home. So we made business normal to her. Mm-hmm. And I'd answer her questions. So that was really cool. And then I was so lucky, we kind of tripled down on our vision. Like, we went harder, and it wasn't about succeeding. We just decided to thrive. And I was lucky. I spent a lot of time with the clients on the phone, and we developed those relationships, and we ended up coming out of it a lot better, but a lot more focused. It was like the pain to get through to the ease. Yeah. And that's how I use triathlon and my racing, is sometimes you have to go through a lot of pain to make it easier.
Yes.
and so to me, there was a lot of lessons. I had some good people around me when things got really hard. I had clients who we were having conversations about money, staff, suicide, everything. And, that, and we then became in this position with the people around us that we were in a trust, we were in that circle of trusted advisor. And that was really powerful, because that was what I always was striving for, to become more important in the conversation. And so and then amazingly, we worked through the year, we took on some more opportunity, we took some more risk, and we sort of started to thrive. And then we entered Christmas as the most relaxed Christmas I've had in years.
Fantastic.
But we were very intentional.
Yeah.
Like we had a plan, we reviewed the plan, we put in a lot of process, and we found a new office. So we'd got rid of this baggage that we had, because one of our values is ditch the baggage.
Yes.
It's our third one. And that was important for all of us, because a lot of us felt very hurt by this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But part of my role was to not be hurt and rationalize and grow. And then that sort of formed the new basis of our business for really the future.
And I know you've got really strong values in your business, because obviously through EO together, I saw you bringing that together and really bringing it to life. Would you mind sharing those with us and what you do to bring those values to life in the team?
Yeah, so I've always had them, but early my business was transactional. And to me, so we've got 3. We used to have 7, but we got them right down to 3. And something that really brought them to life, I went to see Brené Brown in Sydney a few years back with my business partner. And she, if anyone ever gets the chance one day to go and see her live, she's amazing. She really is the most human, authentic leadership coach in the world. She is just amazing. And she talked about values being operationalized. And it sounds like operationalized is not the word for it, but I was like, how do we bring them to life? So our number one value is make it happen.
Yep.
So really, less talk, do. Yeah. And that's where we balance the strategic work. It's like, great, we've got a plan, but let's see it work. So we have a culture of making it happen. So we reverse engineer that and say, well, how do I make that happen? Mm-hmm. Do we have clarity of communication? Do we have the tools? Do we have, what makes it happen? And then, so it's an easy value to live. So if people don't meet the criteria, meet the deadline or meet the outcome, we can reverse engineer what the problem was. Yeah. And it's never about the person, it's about process. Second one is grow together. So that's us as a team and us with our clients or our community or whatever. So it's actually about getting closer to the people in the team, being a more understanding of what they need. So we don't do performance reviews, we have growth catch-ups. Okay. So we book in, there's at the moment, there's only 3 of us, but there's time in the diary once a month where we sit down and we talk about their growth. Yeah. So I don't talk about performance, we give feedback, I work out what I need to do better. So it's all about progress, not perfection. Mm-hmm. So growing together. And then they talk about, Warner talks about their book, Getting Naked. Oh, yes. It's about taking a hit for the client sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's not about putting yourself out of business, but doing the things that are unseen, which is growing together. And then the third one is ditch the baggage. And we spend, particularly leaders, and you'll talk to this, is we spend all our time up here. Yep. And ditch the baggage for us is twofold, is get rid of resentment of the things that didn't work, but also understanding that today we are where we are, tomorrow will be a little bit different. Yep. And if it didn't work today, you start tomorrow and you try again, and the next day you try. And so it's very much about progression, growth, thinking. So we can live those really easily because we only do the work that allows us to do that. Yeah. We have things like huddles. We have simplified technology. We develop courses that only meet our needs. So they are our guiding light. Mm-hmm. So we have to live them. Yeah. And all the business decisions I made have to reference them. So I got an opportunity yesterday. So rather than just saying yes, I'm now dwelling on how does it fit with our plan and how does it fit with our 3 values. And I will ask the team, I'm not sure where I'm at. What do you think we should do? And if they say no, that's it. That's the decision. So we have a formula for how we operate. Mm-hmm. And, 2 of us in our early 40s and then Nat's in her early mid-20s. So we've got 2 perspectives on life, but we have an equal voice. Yeah. And we're working out how that equal voice happens. So it's ultimately sometimes I have to make the decision. But we're getting to that point now where I don't even have to ask people to make a decision in a certain way. They know what the formula is to make the decision. Mm-hmm. And also allow them to fail and allow them to experiment. So, and then we accept the failure and then we go, well, what do we learn from it? Yeah. So that creates a really, in my opinion, like I said, you'd have to ask them, but it makes a really fun, progressive environment.
Well, and it's actually building resilience as well, right? Because the whole thing of resilience is actually learning from those mistakes and saying, what could we do differently? Which sets you up for success going forward.
Well, I'll never forget this lesson as we were going through. So we picked up an import agency for a running brand, another big passion of mine.
Yes.
And we were playing at it for a year, and we were really playing it. And I got upset with Nat one morning, and I said, we had picked up quite a bit of online sales through lockdown, as many people did. And I was like, one Monday morning, I'm like, we either pull the pin or we go hard. And I was like thinking it, and she goes, well, let's just go hard. So within 3 days, we turned the whole model around.
Yeah.
In the first month, we'd gone from $400 a month to $15,000. And to me, it was about our mindset. We either fully engage or we play at it. Mm-hmm. And that grew 600% in the first 2-3 months. And now it's, we're looking at expanding that. So that whole business is for my guys to experiment on. So experiment on digital, on strategy, on activation, on customer service. So we put projects into our business that are real, that they can play with. So they affect the profit, they affect the budgets, they affect everything. So we do live learning.
And you're also getting your team involved in some of those things that maybe a team wouldn't be involved in as in profitability. What does that look like? And
we'll look at things like, so we'll say, okay, like at the moment, we've got a really big problem supply chain out of the UK and South Africa and Indonesia. And we might have this opportunity in Australia. Now, as much as I want to take it on, it will 200x the business. Yep. We can't get product. So the current model that we have won't work there because we haven't got product.
Yeah.
So what we do is we look at the models and we look at how, so then we've got this product line that we can really double down on, which is high profit. We know our cost per acquisition. We know our customer service model. So we say, well, for 3 months, we might just have to go down that route, come back on our expectations of growth and accept that, because there are things we cannot control. We can't physically get product because they're 6-7 months behind in the supply chain. But yet this thing's growing. So we're going through this together and we're solving the problems together. It's not like me, the head of strategy. It's Nat going, well, digitally, how does this work? And, we changed something 2 days ago and sales have gone through the roof. So it comes back to that, I'll speak from experience, the whole EO model of, we don't recommend things we haven't tried. Yeah. And it creates this level of integrity that, we get it wrong. We don't let it towards a client. Yeah. Or
so you're walking the talk.
Yeah, and it's actually my understanding now is that you make a lot less profit short term by doing that because you actually test the food yourself. Yeah, but we're in the long game. So but I believe that creates a rich environment for these guys because they're building a business. They're not just an employee; they're actually involved in decision making around growth. Then you apply that to a client business. They understand the commercials. They understand where we're trying to go. We understand the pitfalls, and that makes a very different dynamic. That makes us a different kind of organization.
I read a book many years ago called Maverick by Ricardo Simler, and he was all about opening up his books on everything to everybody in the organization. And a lot of business owners would go, you can't do that. We should be keeping things to ourselves. I personally don't believe that at all. I think it's very important that, as you said, it's like if if I asked my husband what the cost of milk was, he couldn't tell you because no. And so then you can't blame somebody and sort of say, well, how come we don't know the price of milk if they haven't been told or been involved in the process of buying the milk?
And we have that. So my guys, the only thing we don't share because I just think it's courtesy is salaries. Yep. Everything else, I'll tell them if we're profitable, I'll tell them what cash flow's like. I tell them, like last year, I had to say no salary rise. I said, I don't have the money. Amy and I aren't even paying ourselves half the time. And I just open with them. Yeah. And because what I realized is that they're not, if you have the right people around you, they're not judging you for being a successful business person because success is relative. I own my own home. I've got lots of things that people don't have. So my success, I'm happy. Yeah. So being honest with them, there's going to be, there's two camps. There's going to be those who get scared and go, oh God, there's no money in the account, therefore we can't survive. It's like, yeah, but I live with that and I make that choice. It's kind of sometimes half the fun of it because you have to make it work. Yeah. And I'm lucky, the guys in my business and my wife works in the business, is we have an open conversation. They're not judging me. We're not judging each other. We're going, well, we're in this together. It's difficult sometimes. And, it was last year when all this was going on, we ended up losing a chunk of money, and a couple of guys found it upsetting that basically Amy and I weren't paying ourselves, and then this was happening. And I was like, but unfortunately that is the reality. Like you said earlier, business is sometimes you go without.
Yeah. As a business owner, yes.
As a business owner, you go out. But then I promised the guys, I said, you will get those pay rises as soon as we can.
Yeah.
And I did. I delivered within 6 months because I'd made that promise.
And I can't speak on behalf of your guys either, but I do follow them on LinkedIn, and I see them commenting, and I can tell that you have a team.
Well, it's part of their performance review.
Nice
comment on stuff, yeah.
No, but you can see they're really passionate about what they do. They love what they're doing, and you can see you're a very close-knit team, which is great. Now, you made a comment in your intro that you provided me with that, you'd much rather have 3 really good people than have the ego of 20 people. Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by that?
Yeah, it propped up. So obviously we met a long time ago, and I fell into the trap of because I was naive. I didn't know business at all, nothing. I fell into the trap that I believed a big business, a successful business, was more people. And you don't see it so much anymore, but sometimes you go, oh, we're at 100 staff, we're at 200 staff, we're at blah, 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 or we're capital raising, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really appeal to me because it doesn't mean you're making any money.
No, I agree.
And so over the years, we've had lots of stuff. We've had lots of wonderful people, and we've had some people that just didn't align, let's say.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I thought growth was about the amount of people who you had and the amount of work you did. Whereas actually we've got less people. They're on the right seat, on the right bus.
Yep.
We like each other. We care about each other. We like to hang out. We like to do the work we do. We do the work we want to do.
Yeah.
And to me, then I'm going, well, hold on. The world now is, especially after last year, do we need 100 people to create an X dollar business or whatever the outcome is? Or do we need to have a group of people that are fully engaged in solving things? So now we look at outsourcing, or we look at technology, and then, the guys can say, look, they know when we're going to need a human being. And, a lot of the early days, we struggled to pay the bills because we were just paying salaries.
Yeah.
And the model didn't work for me. When we don't need a lot of people, we need really good people. So if we do have 20 people, every single one of them has to be there for a very particular reason. It's not the ego of I've got a 100-person business. And people do it, and it's all BS. And so that I've realized that's really important for me. So now that I don't, if we're busy, I look at why we're busy. I look at what that means. I look at what's scalable, what's not. So I guess it's maturing. Still pretty childish, but I think
and we all
but I think I was following the business for dummies model. More people equals more profit, not necessarily more people equals more cost. And if you then don't have the right people, there's real cost and then culture. So
and salaries are often the largest part of any business, which means
nearly all the time. So if
you go into a rough patch like we did last year, that can be the end of you if you haven't got the right people doing the right things.
And I don't think you have. I mean, this comes back to what I was saying: writing your own rules. We don't. There's kids on YouTube making millions. Whether it's a good or bad thing, who cares? I've met businesses here. There's 2 or 3 people, and they're running $20 million businesses. It doesn't matter how you do it. My key message is make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Like that's the thing. And I don't think enough people are. One of my friends once, who specialized in small business, and he knows the data inside out. He's quite brilliant. I won't mention him. I think you probably know who he is, but he one day said about how do we stop failure rate of business in New Zealand? And I said, well, I've got an idea. Let's stop people having businesses. Well, it's very simple, because at the moment we glamorize owning a business, but our failure rate is so high. So why don't we help these aspirational people say, well, you could be aspirational and brilliant within a business, but why are we're trying to solve a failure rate. Why don't we actually lift the businesses that we have with great people? But at the moment, we're going, you can start a business in under an hour. You can, doesn't mean you should.
No, nor that you'll enjoy it necessarily.
No, and some people just aren't cut out for it. And largely
because there's a lot of, I was going to say, a lot of roller coaster issues. It can be really tough.
You got to be really tough. And So I think it's controversial. It's controversial, but I think it's better because you don't have damaged relationships, you don't have massive debt, you don't have these statistics. It's not a negative, I think, because there's no test.
But if you think about your business, I mean, you've got people in there who are effectively running a business without running a business because you're engaging with them, you're involving them in it. And I think that's how business should run. It's not about having employees. It's about having a team that is actually all on the same bus, heading in the same direction, knowing why they're doing it and being involved and helping to run that business.
But that's this is the ego of the leader. Now, ultimately, in our business, I know it comes down to me. Yep. Everything that goes right and wrong is down to me. It's not that I can take the credit for it, but if my team is disengaged, it's something I've done. If I don't share the information, it's something I've done. And I think that people, it's easy to blame an employee, but ultimately, if you're a crap leader and you've got no strategy and you've got no culture, people like to be led. It's just behavior. You read anything on it. People like to be not told what to do, but some people like to be part of the system and grow with the system. Some people like us lunatics like to try and work out what the system's doing. I think people are afraid that the employers will make them look bad. Now, I'm really cool. Like, Nat's fantastic. She takes me on all the time. And at first I found it really difficult because it was bruising my ego. But over the time, we've found the way that works for us and we've coached each other. So she'll go, no, that's not working. And I'm like, okay, well, why? And she'll go, this is great. So once again, drop the ego, because that's how your team will accelerate, because I assume it shows a level of integrity and trust and respect and their capability. But also then turn around and go, well, look, no, I'm going to make the decision this time because that's just not right. And we do that too.
Sure. No, I'm conscious of time. I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours about this stuff, but I would like, if you would, before you go, to share 3 kind of key things that you could share with the listeners that they could put into practice in their business right now that would actually help them in terms of getting a better business and better profit. Number
1 is do less.
Do less.
Really, really easy. Coming from an obsessive strategist is do less and laser focus on the thing that's going to make the difference, which seems really obvious, and that's why people don't do it. So, like, if ever I'm riding my bike and there's a stone in the road, if I look at the stone, I'll ride over the stone. If you ignore it, you go around it. So do less, get rid of the distractions, and do the thing that's going to make them biggest, that's going to have the biggest impact. Fantastic. And it's mostly going to take you 10 minutes. Or it's a phone call, or it's an email. I think it's really cliche, but have values that actually mean something. Don't do some arbitrary task that kind of integrity, honesty, trust. Well, they're human traits. Or worse,
an acronym, we've got our company name. We'll use that as the beginning letter for each value.
And then work out how to make them actually work, like operationalize them. So we do this because of that. We do this because of that. So we're currently doing a redistribution of wealth thing through charities. And so we've got a list, and the team will decide where the money goes. So they've got a list of charities. The only rule is that the highest percentage possible has to go to the actual cause, not administration. So we're growing together. We're making a difference. We're making it happen. We're actually making change. And, so it's operationalize your values. And I think 3 is the sweet spot. And also conversationalize them. So make it happen. What does it mean? Well, make it happen. Ditch the baggage. Know what that means, and grow together. We know what it means. And
I think 3 is the magic number. It's my favorite. Well, it is, because it's actually, from a human brain point of view, it's about the most we can remember. And I always use the analogy, send your partner off to the supermarket and ask for 1 or 2 or 3 things. They'll probably come back with them. Give them more than 3 without a list. They'll come back with everything else but those 3 things. So,
and then number 3, this is a very recent discussion I had yesterday and a post I did yesterday, is we had a growth through on the team, and I said, all I want you to do this year is just be that much braver. They looked at me and I said, I want you to be brave. I want you to test things. I want you to push, because I feel the first 9.8 months of my 9 years, 8 months of my business, I wasn't brave enough. And And I think sometimes you've got to be brave just to move that needle, just to really leapfrog. And like my business partner said, 5% is not growth.
Yep.
No, that's business as usual. So be really brave, pick up the phone, go on a podcast, ask for the business. What's someone going to say? I mean, I did something this week. I asked and I thought it was a 98% no from a really influential source. Came back and said, no problem.
Yep.
That's bravery to me, because then...
But people don't ask often. Yeah.
Or they don't do.
Yeah.
They don't do. Like I said to you last year, me and a mate, I said to a mate of mine, he's just started running. I said, do you want to do an ultra marathon? He goes, yeah. He said, what is that? And I explained. And then it was only when we got further down, we were about a couple of weeks out, ago, we're actually doing the toughest ultra marathon in New Zealand, in the mountains. What is wrong with us? And it was life-changing. Like, we did the work, we got into it, we suffered, but now we're ultra marathon runners.
Yay.
I think last year, the great thing about last year was it forced people to move 20%, not 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. So be brave has got to be the third.
Fantastic. Hey, look, that has been absolutely brilliant. Congratulations on a successful year last year. And here's to brave and bigger things for this year.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.